Part 2. Tell me you love me. So this assassination attempt leads us to the completely and utterly implausible and stupid plot of the movie. That Anakin must take Padme to her homeworld in order to protect her. Seriously, it's so dumb it's like some kind of romance novel or something, or like a late night Cinemax sex movie. For one, Obi-Wan knows that Anakin's kinda crazy in love with her, so you'd think he'd suggest that they send Padme off with the guy that looks like a squid. You know, that guy. And they don't call him Kit Fisto, cause he's into chicks, if you know what I mean. So then the Jedi Council, for no logical reason at all other than to maintain the plot, they think Anakin's ready and that he should go with Padme.
Escort the senator back to her home planet of Naboo. She'll be safer there.
Two young star-crossed lovers should go on this romantic getaway, when romance and love is forbidden and leads to the dark side. Fuck it. Oh wait, I guess Palpatine was the guy that initially suggested the idea, so he might have been like using a trick on him or something. You know, his grand plan was to cloud all their judgment and trick them into letting Anakin go with her, because he knew he was gonna fall in love, get Padme pregnant, then have premonitions of future pregnancy complications resulting in her death, so that Palpatine could tell Anakin that he can use the dark side to save her, so that Anakin could become Darth Vader and help Palpatine rule the Empire. You'd think if this guy could see that far into the future, he just picked a lot of those numbers. Maybe that's how he paid for the clones. Well, wait, if that were the case, fuck it. Hey, anybody want to help me milk my cat? It's time to make breakfast. So this movie operates under the logic that assassinations only take place at night, because Padme is packing her things right next to a bunch of open windows in broad fucking daylight. Then there's even robots floating outside the window, and Anakin doesn't even seem to notice this. And the last assassination attempt was by a robot at the window. Fucking Helen Keller could assassinate her at this point. Eventually they go back to Naboo, and we kind of forget about the silly assassination thing. And apparently they do too, because they make absolutely no effort to conceal themselves in any way. She might as well paint a target on her face. You know, if she's so safe on Naboo, then why didn't Anakin just drop her off and come back? I think it's pretty naive to assume that whoever this assassin is couldn't figure out that they went back to Naboo after he sees that Jar Jar Binks has replaced Amidala in the Senate. Then he could just find them and take his time and shoot her when they're, say, sitting in an open field. But I digress. This is really about love, right? And if love is forbidden, then we're supposed to instantly care about it, right? Well, no, not at all. Just because you throw obstacles in the way of a romance doesn't mean that we'll care about it, but instead we have to endure this completely implausible premise. It don't make no sense.
Throughout the film, they're put in these very extreme settings because they're in hiding.
Now, I'm the last person in the world who you call an expert on love, considering that most of my relationships seem to end up inside several different trash bags. But I think I might actually understand it a little more than George Lucas. To him, love seems to be only something from like Romeo and Juliet.
See how she leans her cheek upon her hand. Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek.
Something like an alien or a robot would view human love as. Like a guy who hopelessly pursues a woman by saying cliched love dialogue.
You are in my very soul, tormenting me.
And a woman who blushes and smiles, but insists they can't be together because of whatever convenient social implications prevent them from it.
I'm a senator.
And a Montague.
Neither fair maid, if either thee dislike.
And the place death, considering who thou art.
This is movie romance at its most superficial and one-dimensional. Two attractive people in beautiful locations. They must be in love. I did enjoy, however, watching the actors squirm and BS their way through interviews when asked to describe the romance plot. You might call the acting in episode 2 bad, but watch, these people are pros at the whole acting thing.
She really struggles with sort of the career versus romance issue.
You see, the thing is that both characters have no reason at all to love each other, other than the fact that they are simply physically attracted to each other. So instead of making the story about them just fucking like wild rabbits, they imply some kind of deeper emotional connection that has never been established because they don't know each other. It's what they call a contradiction. So a bunch of nerds will argue that it's the will of the Force that they be together, but that's just an excuse for sloppy, shitty writing. This is also yet another example of how these characters are always written backwards in the Star Wars prequels. See, Padme has no reason to not want to be in a relationship. She's not the queen anymore. She's just a senator. She should be on the prowl for some action on the side. Edward style, baby. And Anakin should be trying to keep his composure and stick with what he had just been taught for the last 10 years. Maybe be somewhat resistant at first. I don't know, it just seems to make more sense that way. And it'd be fitting metaphorically, too. She tempts him and begins the process of ruining his Jedi training and causing the destruction of paradise. Apple, anyone?
Therefore thou mayst think my behavior light. But trust me, gentlemen, I'll prove more true than those that have more cunning to be strange.
I'm a senator.
Arf. But, while Padme is supposedly against them falling in love, she allows for them to take romantic walks along scenic vistas, dine in elegant settings, frolic in the fields, and roll around with each other in the grass. Then she wears sexy, revealing clothing, oftentimes in front of a fireplace, exposing the contoured details of her sexy-ass body and titties. I still can't decide if this is the worst screenwriting ever, or if this girl is the biggest galactic cock tease since Anjum. It's almost comical how all this is played out. These characters are so flat and uninteresting, and Lucas doesn't seem to know how to write dialogue between two real people,
I wish that I could just wish away my feelings.
that we basically have to be told that they're in love. We can't actually experience it or feel it because I suspect he doesn't know how to convey it. They're both attractive people and smile a lot. They're in love. They rode in on a space gondola, just like in Venice, the most romantic city on Earth. They're in love. There's no substance to any of this. And in the end, this simple moment between two characters had 1,000,000 times more depth and realism than even the biggest fake waterfalls your computer could make. Now you say, maybe they are in love, and maybe I just don't see it because I'm a psychopath who butchers women. Well, yeah. To that I say, let's turn towards further analysis to find our conclusion. Now I've analyzed this film with two experts in the field of true love, porn star Jocelyn James and Tiger Woods. Both have provided me with valuable insights about love and stable monogamous relationships. For most men, and especially Anakin, a 19-year-old male with raging hormones, the list of what he's looking for in a relationship is rather short. Number 1, is she hot? Number 2, seriously bro, how hot is she? And that's it. Now what women are looking for is a little more complex. Their list is as follows.
Does he have a good job? Where does he live and what kind of car does he drive? He needs to be
confident without being too arrogant. He needs to be funny, but not like goofy funny. He needs to be tall, but not too tall or like weird tall.
He should be spontaneous, but only when I'm expecting it.
Handsome is a plus, and handsome with good hair is better. No baldies, LOL. He needs to know the exact time to say all the right things.
He needs to know the right time not to say anything.
He really needs to know how to treat me like the woman I am, both in the bedroom and when we're out on the town. He needs to be family-oriented and good with kids, but not too good with kids, like in a creepy clown way.
He needs to be intelligent, or at the very least, money smart, so we can know how to invest for retirement, the kids' college fund, and our funeral expenses. He can have his friends and do things with them, but only when it's convenient for me.
He needs to care about me, but not be too controlling. You know, sometimes I just want to go out and have fun with the girls, and he needs to be okay with that, and not get all like,
stop.
Hey, where
Thank
are you
that'll
going?
be all. Then the list goes on to 167, but I'll stop there, you get the point. Now when first courting a woman, she'll be interested in two things. That you don't look like Danny DeVito, and that you say and do all the right things. Since Anakin looks like a guy from a JCPenney catalog, he's safe in the looks department. But can his actions and words hold up? Get in my living room! Put it to the test. You see, when you say something right... I just need your help with something. Please.
Okay. I will help you. I will. As long as you promise that after I help you, you let me go home to my baby.
I promise. I need you to help me. I need to show you something. Now this might be quite disturbing to you.
Okay.
But I need you to see it.
Okay, what is
in order to help me.
No.
does it taste? Salty.
I just need you to see it in order to help me. Please. I need to show you it. It's called Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
What? Star Wars!
I need you to see it in order to help me. Just get in the chair that's over by the television set. I'm gonna put the movie on and you're gonna watch it. You understand me? Look at me! You're gonna watch it! You see, when you say something right to a woman, she smiles, tickles her brain, which in turn sends blood flowing down to her sex hole. But her smile could also be deceptive and could indicate one of 117 different things. Sarcasm, incredulity, condescension, confusion, contemplation, facetiousness. So in the very brief time that Anakin and Padme are together, they decide to get married as well. And don't say it was the will of the Force unless you don't want me to send you a pizza roll. And when I send it to you, I'm gonna shove it up your ass. So other than being a handsome guy, let's analyze what Anakin did to win over Padme. 1. When Anakin first meets Padme, she's like, oh, hello. And then she drops an unintentional Freudian phallic reference.
My goodness, you've grown.
Win. Good looks. Then the very first thing that comes out of Anakin's mouth is a very awkward and inappropriately placed compliment.
So have you grown more beautiful, I mean.
Inappropriate compliment. She smiles lovingly and dismisses it as nerves. Women don't mind an initial nervousness from a guy. It's complimentary and cute to them. But it gets old real fast. Assertiveness needs to take over quickly. But too much assertiveness and arguing with your boss to impress her comes off as a pathetic and desperate attempt for attention. Inappropriate assertiveness. Next, women like when you ask them questions about things. They like to talk about themselves a lot and don't really care what you have to say. For example, in this next scene, Padme mentions how she's worked for a year on legislation to oppose the Military Creation Act, or something.
I haven't worked for a year to defeat the Military Creation Act.
Even if you could care less about this shit, you just pretend like you do. You can say, well, that sounds interesting. Tell me about this piece of legislation. Then she'll start running her mouth, and you could think about sex while she's talking. Occasionally you should nod, and always be prepared with some follow-up questions. Instead, Anakin misses this very obvious lead and immediately starts talking about himself and his Jedi stuff.
I am truly thankful to be his apprentice.
Talking too much about yourself and your job. She doesn't care. Then it gets worse. He starts bitching and complaining about his job and his boss, almost to where it seems like he's gonna start crying.
He's overly critical. He never listens. He doesn't understand.
Keep in mind that this is only
fair.
like their second scene together. I can only imagine what she's thinking.
Holy shit, this guy is a fucking annoying whiner. I really can't see myself with him. If he's bitching about this, imagine how he'll act when I want him to go see Wicked with me.
And then... creepy sex looks. And if a woman ever says you're making me uncomfortable,
It makes me feel uncomfortable.
it's usually not a good sign. Unless she's into that sort of thing. So now I guess they go to Naboo.
Don't do anything without first consulting either myself or the council.
Hey man, go ask the council first, because I'm sure they'll just agree to whatever. So it's cool. So they're off on their romantic Italian vacation. It's a girl who's under threat of assassination, and a guy whose training was prophesied to bring grave danger. And they're sending them off together, alone. Why? And yet again, the two most logical, clear-minded guys aren't going along and they just stand there and watch it happen.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
They even placed bets on who's gonna make the first move.
I'd be more concerned about her doing something.
Yeah, this guy knows what's up. So when they're on the transport ship, Padme does a little feeler to see if Anakin and her can fuck in the bathroom.
Are you allowed to love? Thought that was forbidden for a Jedi.
Anakin responds with an earnest yet clumsy response about a loophole in the Jedi doctrine about love. This kinda pleases her, so we'll give him a point. Finally, they arrive at the most romantic city in the universe, and Anakin scores a few points early on, carrying her luggage.
I was relieved when my 2 terms were up, but when the Queen asked me to serve as
Listening to her prattle on about herself. For a few minutes, it seems like he's learning, but then he goes back to being a prick.
But I was thinking...
Hold on a minute.
Excuse me.
Interrupting.
Excuse me.
Losing temper.
Sorry, milady.
Forced apology. Then for no reason they take a ride on a Venetian gondola to a romantic location. But did you ever notice how this is like a space gondola? Like it has the same yellow and silver design elements that the Naboo fighters have? Like everything else has this old world charm to it, but the gondola. I mean, can you squeeze any more romantic cliches into this movie? Oh wait, you can. They could have stuck in the Naboo Tower in the background and had them served wine by a waiter in a beret. Oui, Padme, can I take you out to the and give you a and and by the way, what in the hell is she wearing? I mean, really? She's kind of just asking for this guy to use the Force, isn't she? I mean, she might as well just show him where the pinball machine is. So then he stammers on, trying to make some kind of analogy about sand.
It's coarse, and rough, and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Which could be the dumbest line ever in movie history. And then she kisses him. And it's like...
No.
Now go back to looking at my extremely revealing and sexy outfit, you dumb idiot. So their next date is at the waterfall. Anakin tries to discuss politics and admits he supports a fascist dictatorship. Then he rides on a giant pig, and then they roll around. The ladies like it when you roll around with them in the grass, but only if they're awake and not drugged. Later that night, in a romantic fireside setting, Padme is changed into a sexy S&M outfit and teases this guy even more. Then he starts crying.
The closer I get to you, the worse it gets.
Then he starts begging for sex.
I will do anything that you ask.
But she still tells him no because she's a senator?
I'm a senator.
Let the guy get his rocks off! Next, Anakin murders women and children, brings a corpse home, and goes on a psychotic megalomaniacal rant.
I killed them. I killed them all.
Hi, excuse me.
They're dead.
I'd like to discuss some minor inconsistencies with some of the equipment in this room, and how it's a little different from Episode 4, A New Hope.
Be quiet. This isn't the time.
What?
I hate them.
What's not the right time? What?
This is an emotional moment. Anakin just killed some sand people.
You mean Arabs?
No, you racist, no.
Oh, geez, sorry. I wanted to talk about the control panels.
Why'd she have to die? I will be the most powerful Jedi ever. I will even learn to stop people from dying. He's jealous. I killed them. They're dead. And the children, too. And I slaughtered them like animals.
To be angry is to be human.
And then, even though Anakin's strikes far outweigh his successes, she still marries the guy after knowing him for only like 3 days. You know what? I take it all back. I take back every piece of criticism I ever said about the guy. George Lucas, I present you with the Totally and Completely Understands Women trophy. You've earned it, my friend. You've earned it.
I don't like sand. It's coarse, and rough, and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here. Here everything is soft and smooth.
This is awful. Just awful.
But I need to share my pain. I need to make others understand.
Pain? It's just a movie, mister.
No, it's not. It's more than that. It's the most disappointing thing in cinematic history. I have a duty to the human race to explain why in detail.
Wow, you really are crazy, mister. Oh my god, is this a fake movie or something? Doesn't look anything like the films I saw when I was a kid. I mean, remember Jabba the Hutt? It was like all gross and grimy and dripping. This is nothing like that. It's too clean. Everything looks too pretty. What the fuck is that?
Very
Who
impressive.
the fuck are these people?
Why is Samuel L. Jackson in Star Wars movies? When I first heard that he was gonna be in Star Wars, I was like, huh? What? After a while, it made sense to me, though. There is a reason why he's in there, and it has nothing to do with him being the absolute best person to portray the oh-so-memorable character of Mace Windu.
People getting jacked in this movie.
Let's flash back to 1997. Titanic is breaking the box office records all around the world, and at the same time, Lucas is shooting Episode 1. While he's waiting around for others to do the work that he'll eventually take credit for, he complains about Titanic.
You know, we're never gonna beat Titanic. Nobody can.
You could see how annoyed he is that another director is making more money than him and stealing the spotlight. Now, it'd be really naive to assume that George Lucas returned to filmmaking just because he wanted to tell the origin story of Star Wars. He's a businessman first, and a filmmaker second. But he's a good businessman, I'll agree with that.
Where is the money? Come on, my honey. Let's spend it, right.
But the Star Wars prequels are nothing more than carefully crafted products to appeal to as many moviegoers as possible. He had milked the original trilogy as much as he could by '97, so it was time to move on. Now, with all that said, we can discuss Samuel Jackson. Now, a lot of you might be thinking that he's in Star Wars movies because they wanted to have, a black guy on the Jedi Council. That's kind of true, but there's more to it than that, because the diversity quota had already been filled. When the first Star Wars movie came out, people said, "Where's all the black people?" But then in Empire, black people started appearing everywhere. Return of the Jedi was even more diverse. We saw our first black X-Wing pilot who died. There was an Asian pilot who also died. And Lando even had a Hispanic co-pilot. In Jedi, we also got to see the first Jew in Star Wars. The Phantom Menace was also a plethora of diversity. We had Asian guys running the Trade Federation.
I was not aware of such failure.
There was a Middle Eastern junk dealer.
It takes some long time to fix it.
And we broke new ground by having the first homosexual in Star Wars. So by the time Episode 2 was released, diversity wasn't an issue. But what was an issue was demographics. Truth is, and I'm just gonna say it, black people don't really like Star Wars all that much. Sure, some do, I guess. But it's a really small number. Now, Hollywood and advertisers have a term they use to avoid being called racists. The term they use is the urban market. Now, the urban market once stole my TV, so I know they like movies. But usually it's things like barbershop, Merida goes to jail, soul food, set it off, waiting to exhale, Friday, 3 Men and a Little Lady, New Jack City. Now again, I must stress, this doesn't mean that all black people like the same kind of movies. But if I had to pick one demographic that would be least likely to watch a movie with scenes like this, it'd be black people. Oh, come on, you know I'm right. George Lucas does attempt to correct this missing demographic problem by casting 2 of the coolest black dudes ever in Star Wars. Now, while Burley got to play a role that was like a real cool dude,
hello, what have we here?
Samuel Jackson is horribly miscast as the most boringest character ever. You see, Jackson's strength as an actor is not playing someone that's reserved and wise. It's playing bad motherfuckers.
It's the one that says bad motherfucker.
Characters that have a certain intensity to them.
You wanna shut that mouthy bitch of yours up? Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell. Yes, goddammit! Waste the motherfuckers!
He can give a really powerful performance if put in the right role. The wrong role will suck.
The oppression of the Sith will never return.
Most times he'll be wearing a black leather jacket and he'll probably be like a cop or a special agent. You know, a role that allows him to beat people and scream at them.
What's my name? John Sheriff! John Sheriff! Say it! soldier!
Jackson's really best when he's screaming.
I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane. Don't fuck with me or I'll shove a lightning bolt up your ass. Well, believe it now, motherfucker. We gotta get this car off the road. Waste the motherfuckers. English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Now, if you wanted to cast an older, wiser African-American Jedi, you got so many other better choices, like Morgan Freeman, Forrest Whitaker, Sidney Poitier, and so on. Problem is that these guys, and while they're all excellent actors and can pull off the whole wise Jedi thing really well, they aren't the biggest box office draws. And they certainly aren't really that hip to young movie-going audiences. The allure that Samuel L. Jackson was going to be some kind of awesome ass-kicking Jedi in Star Wars? That was nothing more than a dirty, sleazy marketing gimmick. He didn't do anything. And his delivery of the clunky dialogue was just fucking awful.
Remember, Obi-Wan, if the prophecy is true, your apprentice is the only one who can...
Well, hey, you know, it's a Star Wars movie.
He did awkwardly swing a sword around and then decapitated a poor guy who was just trying to make his way in the galaxy. But by no means was Jackson a badass in this movie. He was just yet another creepy, boring asshole. Could have done him in the CGI and not made a bit of difference. So in short, Jackson was cast not because he was good for the part, but because his name would bring in extra dollars and an audience that might not have come otherwise. Much like how Jar Jar was there to appeal to the really little kids, Anakin was there to appeal to younger, toy-playing, aged boys. The Jedi action stuff was to appeal to the teenage to middle-aged fanboys. And lastly, why do you think Amidala changed her outfit so many times and wore such elaborate costumes? Well, that was an attempt to give little girls and women something of interest to look at. The main point I'm trying to make is you can make a film that appeals to all audiences, but you gotta keep all the elements pretty subdued in order to make it work. When you include the extreme ends of the spectrum that movies could go to in order to sell your movie to everyone possible, from like baby stuff to extreme hardcore violence, it becomes a big fucking disaster. Kinda like what Abe Lincoln once said. You can fool all of the people some of the time, and you can fool some... fuck it. Am I making any sense? Sometimes I ramble after I had a few vodka gimlets.